Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Just two of you. Can we try that again? Good evening. Now, because we're such a huge group, we need to be really quiet, so we don't overshadow our speakers. Now, obviously we're not, but thanks for coming to TechMap. This evening, it's all about data. It's just something we can't really avoid in this day and age. It's everywhere, and it's becoming the lifeblood of all of our marketing, I hope. It's certainly a conversation we have regularly with our clients and in the marketing community. But before we get to the talks, a few housekeeping notes. Please, please, please share the fact that you're here. Hashtag is TechMap. Tweet it. Take a picture. Tell everyone how amazing the content is when these two fine gentlemen have entertained you and educated you this evening. Please let everyone know what the event's like, whether you've got some value out of it, because we're trying to grow this community, and the more people come along and the more you get involved and the more you take part, the more others will hear about what we're doing. And obviously, we want to grow this community, so it's of value to all of us. Ask a question. We want to make it interactive, so let the guys say their piece. They're going to do about 20 minutes each, and there's roughly 20 minutes of Q&A at the end. So please don't be shy. It's a small group, so raise your hand or shout a question out, or if you tweet it with the hashtag TechMap, Lauren at the back will capture it, and she'll shout it out for you if you're too shy. But looking around, I don't think there are too many shy faces here, so hopefully that's not the case. Please make sure before you leave you have met at least 3 people you haven't met before you've been here. At least 3. Shouldn't be too hard, and that should be most of the room if you work it properly. And the last thing, of course, is you probably have noticed at the back there's a chap with a camera. He's video recording our presenters, so please be aware that if you ask a question, you'll be recorded, and that will be shown on YouTube and various other places after the event. And we'll start to collect some data. There we go, more data. So who have we got on the panel today? Well, on the far side is Tim Barker from DataSift, Chief Product Officer. If I'm correct, has founded and sold 3 startups.
Three, yeah.
And was most recently VP of Marketing for EMEA for Salesforce before then joining DataSift. Yeah. So Tim knows a thing or two about data, and hopefully he's going to share some of those pearls of wisdom with you this evening. And then to my immediate left is Matt Morrison. I love Matt's Twitter handle. I'm not sure if it still says the same on the profile. It says the world's oldest social media guru.
Oldest living.
Oldest living social media guru.
I couldn't say.
I first met Matt when he was working at Starcom as part of Social Media Week, and now I think you're working for...
I don't know myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think now you're working for a company that helps mad tech startups to meet brands, I think, but is definitely a social media expert, nerd, data geek, and he'll be sharing ideas around engaging with identifying influencers online and whether that's actually something that's worthwhile doing anymore. So that, I think, will be a really interesting session. So what is it that we're here to talk about? Why are we actually interested in data, and what's the value to us all in being here? Well, there's this great quote I saw on Wired. It compares data to oil. Data is the oil of the 18th century. Those that work out how to actually tap the well are going to make a hell of a lot of money. But right now, everyone is playing with data and using it, but are they using it to its fullest potential? Are there opportunities for us as marketeers to actually better use data, to better target our customers and to make a bit more of an impact in what we're doing? And hopefully that will be of interest to you all this evening. And these chaps are going to do their best to give you some examples of how we can start to tap that well, as it were. So that's enough rambling on from me. I'm going to pass you over immediately to Tim. So if you would, please, a nice warm round of applause.
Just need the clicker. That's good. Hey, everyone. So ask questions as we go through. This is family. There's only a few of us.
What's your Twitter handle?
It's on the next slide. Tim Barker. Thanks for the question. Keep queuing up the questions, and I'll get this next slide ready to answer them. So yeah, as Andy mentioned, I'm technologist turned marketeer turned technologist again. So I joined a company, DataSift, which I'll explain what we do, about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I ran marketing in Europe for Salesforce for 5 years, and prior to that, I had time and a long tenure in building startups. So I'm here to tell you a bit about an entirely new product. So when you go back to the office tomorrow, you'll appear smarter than anyone else there, because you'll be able to tell them about a new initiative that Facebook have brought to market called Topic Data, and how this is going to revolutionize your job. Robots will come in, the future with Elon Musk is going to be secured, and you'll be able to generate more revenue. So I'm going to just do a little bit of an overview of a bit of context about what DataSift is, who we do, but also, you know how it is. Andy asked me for a title of this this deck a couple of weeks ago, and I'll be honest, I didn't start writing it till this morning. And when I started writing, I had an even better title for it. So actually the new title is Social Data is the New Don Draper. So you can tweet that, but I want that, I want to use that again. So, and that's why, you know, when we look at social media data, there are a myriad of use cases, and we'll talk about them. You know, if we rewind back to 2008, 2009, when everyone was first dogpiling onto Twitter, you know, marketeers thought, that's great, we're going to hear from our customers. And you did hear from your customers, but they were unhappy customers. So it ended up then being a customer service channel. And then it became a targeting channel. Now, as we talk about Don Draper, I'm going to tell you about how it's going to become a research channel as well. Because market consumer research is one of the big, I would say, unsolved industries where there could be a big data revolution. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as part of this. So what did DataSift do? And like any good marketeer, you can't have a presentation without having a crack in the ground. Shows anxiety. So what you've got on here is the high potential that we all know there must be across this universe of what we call human-created data. You know, whether that be, might be mobile data, it might be social media data, it might be click data. There is a huge amount of potential value there is. But as we also know, actually processing that into something of real value is pain. You know, separating signal from noise, and even for those of you that have tried to do a social media report or an engagement report for a brand that has a slightly common name like Ford, realize the pain of trying to remove noise and get to the good stuff. Actually then trying to derive meaning from it at scale. So here I don't mean use the power of interns and you get, you know, 10 people to read everything, but you actually want to look across, you know, 5 million posts, comments, and try and figure out what the big picture is pain, right? Or the third thing is extracting insights, especially while also protecting the privacy, is a challenge, right? That's why a lot of the market, and probably a lot of you, think Twitter first, because it's publicly available, it's visible, and that's why very few of you have probably thought in analysis Facebook first, because it's been hard to get at scale. So what I'll talk about is a new model that we brought to market with Facebook in partnership, co-developed with their privacy team, that can provide insights for the first time, but protect identity of individuals. Because most of the time you're not trying to understand who these individuals are, you're really trying to understand what the landscape or the overall view of that industry is. So this is what we do. This is the one slide where I'll talk about what we do. DataSift is a technology platform that sits between social networks and data owners, and we receive a full feed of their data sets. So we process about 50,000 data items a second, everything from exotic networks like Sina Weibo through to Facebook, through to things like WordPress. We have a partnership with Twitter, I'll talk about that later in a bit more detail, through to things like Discuss, which is comments that you find on blogs. So we have a massive universe of partnerships and license agreements with these networks. But on the other side, you've got companies that are trying to tap into that. They don't want all the data, you just want to have a slice through that that's relevant for your research or your analysis. So we have a big data technology that allows you to do that. You can mine out the data that's relevant, you can ignore the data you don't want, you can then add value to it, whether you want sentiment analysis, crazy machine learning, and then we deliver it into your business or to an application. So that's what we do. We've been in business about 7 years, and prior to DataSift, we were a company known as TweetMeme, which if you go that far back into social media, was one of the first social media news sites. And we learned a lot and realized that from our experience there, the world needed a platform. So you wouldn't all have to go out and do deals with every social network and try and integrate with them all manually. We thought we'd do the heavy lifting for you. So that said, what I'm really here to talk about is Facebook. So a few years ago, people used to do conferences and they go, hands up, how many of you have got Facebook, are on Facebook? We don't bother anymore. Yeah. Only when we go to Germany do we ask that question. So what I want to talk about is Facebook topic data, which is a new product which is about 3 months old, and it's the result of about 18 months of effort and collaboration between DataSift and Facebook. So the short story is, Facebook really wanted to see how they could bring their data to market, so you could all gain insight from that for whatever myriad of use cases there are around social media. But the deal is, we've got to protect the privacy and identity of users on Facebook. So this is an entirely new model and distinctly different from how you might have worked with other social networks before. So, of course, better insights that you can gain from that network allow you to create better content, better experiences, better marketing, better campaigns on Facebook, which creates better experiences for users on Facebook. So it's a pretty straightforward deal. The more you can learn, the better you can serve. And as you know, there are more than 1.4 billion people on Facebook, and there are more than 2 million active advertisers. So it is head and shoulders by an order of 10x larger than any other peer that it may have in the industry. In fact, the only other peers it have are also Facebook-owned properties. So up to now, if you've tried to do analysis of what our audience is engaging with on Facebook, what content are they consuming or sharing, what do they think about your brand, or what do they think about an upcoming event, you've probably been limited to what you might have seen on your Facebook page, right? Which is slightly biased because people are only coming to you when they're already aware of your product and they already want to engage with you. And so for several years, Facebook has had APIs and interfaces to look at Facebook page engagement. So what Facebook topic data allows you to do is step outside your owned property and look across all of Facebook. So for the first time, you could look at a brand or you could look at an audience segment and understand that, their interest, their engagement, the content they're sharing, their intent across all of Facebook. So this is why we're pretty excited about it, because this has never been possible before, and it was a hell of a lot of effort. So if you think about consumer research, there's really been 4 obstacles. So companies that are trying to understand audiences, right? How do I make my product relevant to millennials? If you look at, a really famous campaign from the last year or two, Dove. Dove do phenomenal marketing campaigns, things like hidden beauty, really tap into the zeitgeist of an audience. And so traditionally, when people have looked at consumer research on social networks, the naysayers have got 4 objections that you have to overcome. First one is, it's not representative of the population. You're looking at a small niche of high engagers here. Or it's maybe if it's a public network, you've got self-selection, self-promotion bias, right? You're just hearing the echo chamber of people talking about what they have curated and because they know it's being published publicly. Or that there's no demographics in the data, so I can't normalize it to understand if I'm BMW, what my aspirational buyers, 24 to 35-year-olds, versus my stalwart hardcore buyers of 45 plus think. I can't separate that. Or finally, it's just too much effort to try and interpret and analyze this because it's text. And to put the effort in to codify and go through everything is a massive amount of effort. So thankfully, for all of us, we've solved all of these 4 problems with Facebook. And how have we solved them? Well, as you know, there's 38 million people that use Facebook in the UK. 98% of people online have a profile. I pulled that number out of Facebook Advertising Insights yesterday, so I'm pretty sure it's current. This is about surfacing insights across Facebook activity. So it's not about just those people that have decided to go public on something. But because of that, it's really built with privacy by design. And what that means is everything that is published out of this product is anonymized and aggregate, which means that you're getting numbers and statistics, not lists of posts or lists of people, because it helps you understand audiences top down and understand, what different audience segments view or engage with on Facebook. It also contains demographics, which I'll talk a little bit about. And finally, the data has been data scienced, I've just made up a new word, it's been data scienced for you with natural language processing, so that by the time you get it, a lot of the hard work has been done. So it's had sentiment analysis applied, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. So this is the start of the next chapter. Good news is you got the news before most people. We're currently in a kind of early stage with a number of companies that are using it, trialing it, rolling it out, and you will start to see it in popular social measurement products that you use daily in the next few weeks and months. So as a platform provider, what we tend to do is work with the ecosystem of agencies and applications. So one day it will just pop up into your dashboards, or more likely, a salesperson will call and ask if you want to add it on. So a couple of things just to highlight as part of this. We all know when we signed up for Facebook many years ago, we filled out a profile. That profile contains demographic detail, and that detail is then visible in aggregate form, so you never know it was me, but you know that there is an audience talking about Sepp Blatter resigning today, by the way, which you didn't hear. I don't know if you heard, but we should have a quick cheer. Sepp Blatter has resigned. Hey, yeah, that's going viral. So you can see. Sorry. Not yet. But the day isn't over. Yeah. He's resigning. Then he's okay. All right. Don't spoil it. We got everyone excited then.
He's back on now.
He's back. Oh, he's back now. He's unresigned. It's like UKIP all over again. Yeah. So what you can see is there's demographics in topic data, which means that, as we all know, those of you that come from agencies know that the days of demographics are not gone yet. People view the world, especially large brands, view the world through demographic dimensions because these are mass products for mass audiences, and so these have a huge amount of value as guides to help you understand what different audiences, when they engage, which ones are over-indexed or overrepresented versus everyone, or underrepresented. So this allows you to gain an insight into what audiences are active on a topic. And of course, because they are things that we provided, unless we lied about our age and gender, they're pretty accurate. The second piece, which is, question at the back.
So can you provide the GRP from us?
The GRP?
The gross rating point using this.
Well, essentially this is a product that's going to help you grow big ears, right? So this is all about analysis. It will help you listen at scale in an aggregate form to audiences on Facebook.
But it's very broadcasty, that's all I'm saying. If you have a GRP, then you have a brand measure for the channel that you can literally broadcast on.
Yes, yeah. Then the answer may be maybe.
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think there's a cultural difference here between what you're asking for and what I think they're selling. So you're a player.
But certainly, it's about bringing the scale of measurement and also demographics across that and to measure that activity. The other thing as well is that there's a huge amount of processing that goes on, again, aggregate and anonymized, to make sense of what we publish, like what we share. So an example would be is that if you are posting that you're going to go and test drive a new Ford, what will be derived from that is that there are two topics related here. One, Ford, the company, and the other one, automotive, the category. So this means that at scale, you can start to analyze what topics are related to your brand or to an event. So A good example of this would we did a little fun analysis of Game of Thrones when that opened in the UK a few weeks ago. And what you could see there was what the beverage of choice for people when they sat down to watch the first new series of Game of Thrones. You could see what topics were detected there, whether they were, you know, and it was as diverse as there was a large population sitting down to a nice glass of wine. There was another population that was sitting down to open a nice beer. And at the very end of the list, I could see a small population of people that were enjoying a can of soup. So there was a missed marketing moment for Heinz there, that if only they'd have known the intersect between their audience and TV fans. But essentially, topic detection takes a lot of the heavy lifting out of this, because this is done by Facebook to help you make sense of this data at scale. And so I thought I'd just sort of show you a couple of vignettes, sort of an amuse-bouche essentially of what you might be able to get once you start to look at this data. So yeah, so I'm showing here, I know we've got someone in from MicroStrategy, so I'm just going to apologize. I'm showing Tableau here, which is other popular visualization tools and analytics tools are available. This is just indicative. So what we showed here is we built a data set around the universe of automotive. We wanted to find what is the active audience engaging in content or sharing content about different automotive brands. So you can see here, don't count the dots, there's about 350 different brands or products that are surfacing and being engaged on. And so you can see here like Chevrolet and Ford Mustang, like the big things that are generating a huge amount of interest. And behind every bubble is obviously an audience, a set of data that you can drill down on. This is a live, queryable topic data set, so you can ask any question of it. It's, you know, multidimensional. So one question you might ask is, if you are in automotive, you'll know that you want to look across the different product features. How do people buy? What influences people to buy? Is it the style? Is it the fuel economy? Is it the running costs? Is it that it's got, you know, super sunroof? And so you can build classifiers that now categorize that engagement, that topic data, based on, you know, if it's mentioned CO2, then I'm going to look at environment. I'm going to classify it as environment. If it mentions MPG, that's running costs. So you can start to tease out from that very brand or industry-specific ways to look at that data. So you can see here, for example, I know it's a bit too small to read. Honda has got a huge over-index on practicality. Toyota is an outlier in performance. And I'd immediately ask, I want to know why. Like, why are these product attributes? And interestingly, purchase price figures very little in when people are sharing content on Facebook. So this might inform you, your social data Don Draper might start to inform you about the kind of creative that generates interest and excitement from audiences on Facebook. Or I might then want to break that down, so I might look at performance, mechanical specs, or practicality by a Asian gender tornado, as we call it. So I might want to segment that further and go, what is it for different audience segments that really resonates, and what product attributes are they perhaps asking for recommendations on? All of this is about helping you create content that's going to resonate with audiences. Another way, and if you can read them at the back, then you get a free pint from me behind the bar, is you might also surface what the top content is. So again, there are certain rules in the platform so that content, nothing's visible until there is a large enough audience engaging or sharing. But now you can start to see what is organically or what is bubbling up around a brand. So I can start to view what is the top content that's driving perhaps positive or negative sentiment. That might then inspire me to create a campaign or perhaps promote that piece of content. Because I'm not just looking at brand content here, I'm looking at content that we have created and shared through links on Facebook. So that was a sort of well, not a sneak peek, if the product is available. It's kind of a first look at what you're going to be seeing probably hopefully a lot more of as you think about that universe of social data and how you can gain insight from that for different use cases. And there's a question.
Hello.
Hello.
So for people who aren't part of agencies, so there's a couple of people on your client side, how are they going to get to see this kind of data and these kind of dashboards?
Yes.
without having to have an agent or a salesperson come
Yes.
to them and say,
Well, you've set me up for this slide. That's fantastic. So there's three, well, thank you for asking. There's actually three things that we've got, three approaches that we're taking. Because DataSift is an ecosystem builder. Our goal is to make Facebook topic data visible and available in anything you use. So first thing that we're focused on right now is there is a ecosystem of people that have off-the-shelf applications. Whether you use, I don't know, Hootsuite or SysMoss, whatever it might be, we're working hard to activate those products with topic data. So one day, you're going to get an email to go, here's how you activate it. So it will then appear alongside the other networks that you've got. Clearly, it's slightly different. You're not looking at raw data feeds here. You're looking at something which is phenomenally good for analytics and contains data that perhaps you don't see today, like demographics. So we're working hard to make sure that you won't have to hunt this stuff out. It'll find you through the tools you use every day. We're also working with agencies who perhaps might use those off-the-shelf products or want to build their own unique IP. So maybe want to have an industry focus and say, we want to go deep in automotive or deep in travel, whatever it might be. So you now have the ability to create products out of that. And we do all the heavy lifting, right? So essentially we do all of the summarization and we provide, I didn't want to get into the geek detail, we provide an API. So it means that companies don't have to build their own big data technology. They just got to be, really their focus will start on what questions do I want to ask and answer, how do I want to represent the results, and then how do I want to classify the data in my own unique way. And then finally, we are working with large end enterprises, but those typically tend to be more very data oriented. They've got high data competency and they know exactly what they want to do with it. So our focus right now is to make all routes for Facebook topic data available to you, so you don't have to work hard to get it, basically. Yeah, and that was my deck. And now, questions. Questions.
So I just wondered, obviously you're talking here heavily about Facebook data. In your introduction you said that your business model was founded on combining different data sources. I wondered if perhaps we were seeing a redrawing of the lines around social media data. Are you selling it? I mean, why aren't Facebook selling this?
Yeah.
Why is it?
Well, primarily because we have got an amazing technology platform that took us 7 years to build that does all of this. So that was the main reason. Plus, we have a large number of existing customers and partners and channels where we can bring this data to market pretty quickly. But I would say that there is a line being drawn, a new opportunity, I guess, in this market space, which is up to now. What you've all used was data from public social networks. If you look at where audiences are going now, they are not going to public social networks. There's an increasing a long tail of, I'll just call them non-public, right? Facebook has been around for quite some time and it has a shared model. Sometimes you post publicly, sometimes not. If you look at other networks, whether they be professional social networking ones or group messaging ones, there is a huge amount of other data sources, networks, but that data can never be made visible for analysis in the same way that we can't make the Facebook data visible for analysis. So I do think this model that we've co-developed with Facebook is going to actually open the market much wider to people that previously saw that there was no proposition for them if the answer was to publish a fire hose where all of the data goes out of their network to the rest of the world.
I guess my worry would be that who is doing the semantic analysis? Is it you or is it Facebook? And who do I hold to account when my CO2 reference is actually if you want a new mobile phone in CO2?
Yeah, well, the answer is both. So you can take what Facebook has done for topics and you can build your own. So there's a machine learning layer inside the product, so you can literally train it to say this kind of text means it's a purchase intent, or this kind of text means it's an intent to churn for my business or my industry, or this means fuel economy. So the whole goal of this was to not bake the cake for you, right? Because if That's the worst thing that we could do. If we just end up giving you standardized reports that we've decided and curated, it won't grow an ecosystem, because you want to be able to innovate with that data, add value to it, and then build your own IP around it. So the short answer is both. Yeah. Cool. Question at the back.
One of the, it's much better. I'm trying to. One of the problems with sentiment analysis, which was kind of the earliest market research thing, is that you couldn't overlay first-party data. You couldn't match it in. So you couldn't work out who your happy customers were and who your unhappy ones. You just knew there was a proportion of unhappy ones and a proportion of happy ones. How do you bring first-party data into this?
Yeah, today we don't. So the data that you're accessing is at Facebook-only data. Possibly, maybe down the road, that's something that may get added in the end. I mean, Facebook has provided for some time the ability to integrate your first-party data for campaigns. That's not part of this product today. I can see the need for it, but not part of what we do right now. Yeah. Yeah.
One question. When you say first-party data, do you mean demographics, details?
Yeah, no, good question. By first-party data, it means data that you as a brand own. So imagine that you are a set-top box company, a cable TV company, and you've got a whole lot of customers that you want to then upload and join into this universe of social data, so you can identify when someone's saying they're unhappy with their TV, whether that's your customer or someone else's. So again, not part of what we do, but certainly see the potential for that.
Should we move on?
Okay,
Last question?
Yeah, last question. This slide's interesting. I've heard that the pricing on this is prohibitive. You were asking the question about how do I get involved. Obviously, great if it's Systemos. Yeah, so I mean, to date, your pricing has been obscure but affordable.
Thank you.
This
Kafkaesque, I've heard some say.
Yes.
Yeah. So our focus right now has really been to sell to people that serve a large number of customers. Yeah. So we are almost.
You're considering opening it up to.
Well, it's almost like a Costco model, right? Where you go in there and you're buying a 24-pack, right? Yeah. Right now we're selling 24 packs because we want to get the ecosystem up and running. But we also want to make sure that people can innovate with it.
So you're effectively offering exclusivity at the moment to those developers who, but you will open it up further down the line.
So if you want to gain access directly, come and talk to me, and I can kind of like go through the pricing on it. But the answer is yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You don't know if I'm recording, do you? You just assume I'm recording. Okay, good. Cool. So I am Matt Morrison. I have been working in social media, as Andy says, for an awfully long time. I am a social media nerd, so I probably don't share a lot of similar features with most of the social media people you know. There you go. Yeah, easy. So until very recently, I was head of social at a big media agency. I have stopped that. I am now operating on my own, trying to work out what the hell I'm supposed to be doing. And a few months ago, somebody came to me and said, would you like to be our just global head of influencer marketing? I don't know why they asked me that. I had heard of influencer marketing, but I hadn't actually really done any influencer marketing. In fact, if you searched on my name and influencer marketing, you would have found me saying quite careful things about it. So today's presentation is a whole series of quite careful things to say about influencer marketing, based on the fact that I knew nothing. So all I had to go to when somebody asked me which person from TOWIE should we be getting to endorse our product, was numbers. That's all I had that I could rely on. And so that's what this presentation is about. So interest is just search interest in influencers has been massively increasing. It's kind of trebled over the past few years. The number of articles that people are writing the marketing press to meet that search interest has increased fairly rapidly because obviously journalists write articles to terminate searches. What's interesting to note about this graph really is that this is when Gladwell published a book called The Tipping Point, which more or less fucked up social media for the next 10 years. This is when social media marketing really took off. That's when the people were starting to really begin to pull together blog networks. Perhaps just about there, maybe doing some MySpace stuff. This is Malcolm Gladwell. He probably had, politely, he had a profound influence on the marketing community because he sort of said that we could carry on regardless. We could keep on doing what we'd always done. We used to go to ITV or Sky, now we could go to influencers. So it was the same model, just writ much smaller. As it happens, a much smarter chap who really knows his onions, a guy called Duncan Watts, said, it's not really as simple as that. It's not a feature of the individual. It's not a feature of the influencer. It's a feature of the network. So somebody who's very influential but surrounded by the wrong kind of network won't go anywhere. What you need is massive networks of gullible people, and then we're kind of cooking on gas. Nonetheless, the marketing community on the whole doesn't like complex messaging, as no doubt you've told your clients. What we like is quite simple things, and what sells is Gladwell. So let's ignore Duncan for the moment and focus on this. So what's happening at the moment is we have social media platforms, notably probably YouTube, Vine, Instagram, Facebook. We've got these platforms where, for the first time ever, celebrities are able to talk directly to their audience without having to get onto Parkinson's sofa. The fact that I'm saying Parkinson probably shows how really out of my depth I am in influencer marketing. There must be something more up to date. David Letterman? So we've gone from this model where people had to go to the media in order to talk to their audience, but now, in fact, we're getting this moment where narrowcast, things that looked for a while to be very small, like podcasting, YouTube vlogging, are really becoming quite big. From the point of view of an ad agency, this is interesting because when I'm booking my talent, I kind of want to work out how do I integrate that talent into, have they got a large Twitter following? Should I choose somebody because they have a large Twitter following? Should I choose somebody who's able to make YouTube videos about the fact that they're on a shoot for the ad that I'm making? You can see how it works. But all that means, in practical terms, is that we're spending more money here. And because we're spending more money here, it's worth it if you are William Morris or whoever to start thinking about this as part of your talent representation offer. So it's a lot easier for me as an agency to go to talent representation and book these people, which means that it's easier for me to spend money. And so we've got this wonderful sort of feedback loop and growth, which is great for me. The problem, obviously, is at some point somebody's going to ask me, how does this work? Is this working? How do I value? How do I know who's playing well with Asian teens in the North, or who do I go to if I can't afford Philip Schofield to talk to mid-market mums? So can I find some kind of benchmarking? And there isn't really a clear way. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Clearly, if we are looking at influencers, there are two ways we can begin to think of them. We can think of them as channel or content channel. Oprah controls huge audiences. So if I get Oprah to endorse my product on her program, I'm doing well. In fact, one of my clients has, in fact, asked me to get Oprah, which is interesting. Alternatively, you have somebody like George, who has no social media presence at all, absolutely none, just doesn't really care. But if I get George into my campaign, then I will be able to generate huge amounts of media interest and lots of PR. So that's going to be fine. we can talk very briefly about the content side of things. It's relatively straightforward. We have search data, which tells us where in the sort of narrative arc a particular celebrity is, which is quite useful. And we can look at them and see, relatively speaking, who's doing well, who's not doing well. So if somebody has more search interest, it's probably going to be easier for me to sell that into the Daily Mail. And we can look at how many mentions they're getting, where they're getting those mentions, where those mentions are appearing. This is all from still public data. But luckily here, public data includes people writing about the Daily Mail, whatever. That's all straightforward. I'm surprised that people aren't using this stuff more. It's what any sort of but this is easy, and it's good, and everyone should do it. So let's put that to one side and look at the channel side of things. I'm quite pleased I'm following you, because generally speaking, when you look at measurements, there are these two sort of areas. There's what's worth measuring and what can be measured, and then there's this tiny overlap here, and that's where you kind of want to look. But if you work in my business, then everyone obviously focuses on just what can be measured. And that really tends to mean Twitter, because Twitter has lots of data, and it's all publicly available. It is so it's kind of traditional to look at Twitter data, and I'm a very traditional chap, so I start there. You can't see these slides because they're going to be too small, but this is kind of one of the problems that we see. Twitter tells you how many impressions you get. So I tweeted the other day, and it says I got 2,500 impressions, which is very nice. For me, that's amazingly good. But if I went to TweetReach, which is using the public data, then it tells me I got 44,000 impressions, which is about 17 times as many. So the whole industry tends to work to these numbers, not to the real numbers. It's a absolute. We all know it's false, and yet, I mean, I now ask my clients, do they want real numbers or do they want the big numbers?
What answer do you get?
Big numbers. Obviously, you didn't even have to ask that, did you? You never had to ask that. So it's a big number thing, and but all this is to show you really is that there is, just to prepare you for the fact that some of the numbers that we see may not always be entirely accurate. Does anybody know about the Fry effect? Have we come across this? Stephen Fry is very big on Twitter. He's so big that, in fact, the Fry effect says that because if he tweets a link to your site, he can deliver 2,000 or 3,000 requests a second. And that means 50% of the time the site is down in seconds. I was like, please, Stephen, don't tweet my fucking site. It's like because I mean, I don't know if you know about like sort of Anonymous, but basically he is a denial of service attack, which isn't. So it's awesome in many ways, but is it true? Stephen Fry is good at many things, but I'm guessing that the numbers is not one of them. Every so often he tweets a bit.ly link. I don't know if you know this, you probably do, but if you add a plus to the end of a bit.ly link, you can see how many people clicked on it. Yeah, and 4,000 people clicked on this link. That's from the other day. That's a really good one. I mean, that's 4,000 clicks. That's, more than me. But it's not 2,000 or 3,000, or was it 3,000 or 4,000 a second? It's big, but it's not. It's not 4chan. So I went through every single one of the last 3,200 tweets, and I found every single bit.ly link. I mean, I could have been worse than this. You can actually find any short link and see if it's a bit.ly link, but I was quite lazy, and I only found about 300 bit.ly links. And I used very much a best case scenario, which assumes that every single link that he shared was only shared by him. And he got, you can see sort of over here, kind of a median of about 1,500 clicks per link. Again, not 3,000 or 4,000. But I come from a media side of things, so we know that clicks are not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is post-view conversion. Anybody here media? Excellent. So yeah, don't sell the clicks. Right. Don't sell the clicks. Yeah, fine. So he's got 9.5 million followers, which is amazing. Yeah, that's kind of like early season X Factor or Britain's Got Talent. So I mean, this is a TV-sized audience. This is huge. But only an idiot would think that every single one of those persons, people saw his tweets. That would be crazy. I mean, that would be, not everyone's awake when he tweets. So how many see his tweets? I mean, he's not going to tell me. So I didn't really have a way of doing this. So what I did was I went to my most influential friend who trusted me. And I asked him to give me his Twitter data. He's got about 100,000 followers. No, I mean, nowhere near the, where we're looking at. And he gets about 5,000 impressions per tweet. So again, best case scenario, that's a reach of about 5% of his followers. Yeah, it's not bad. But it's not, not great. So I looked a bit, trying to work out how do I then work out a way to relate that to what Stephen Fry. So there's one thing they have in common, which is the number of retweets per tweet. So we'll set that as some kind of way of benchmarking this. And actually, retweets per tweet is quite a good way, generally, if you're ever analyzing a Twitter account, to work out how active their audience is, how able they are to activate their audience. So 5,000, so 5%. And I looked at this, and I thought, okay, he's able to activate 5%, and then I could see that sort of, his impressions, which is, for the moment we're calling that his reach. You see it goes up at this nice thing. So I thought, okay, that's kind of useful. It's kind of a way of thinking about, there's probably some relationship between retweets and reach. I mean, that's kind of a relationship. So I looked at his and I looked at Fry's retweet, their median retweets per tweet. Which is not, this is you can see how we're kind of getting a little bit into the weeds here. But my friend gets about 4 retweets per tweet, which is not bad. I'd be pleased. Fry is getting an amazing 113. That's huge. I mean, that's kind of getting towards Taylor Swift. It's really good. But it's not 9.5 million versus his. Yeah, it's not. It's only a little bit better. If you were to draw sort of a straight line, you'd expect him to be getting thousands of retweets per tweet. And there's kind of this weird paradox. Stephen Fry and a lot of very, very large follow count Twitter accounts are recommended. They're suggested. So if you're a new user and you're joining, if you've never been there before, Twitter is trying to make it a slightly better, they call it the onboarding experience. They're trying to make it a slightly better experience for you as you join Twitter. So it's not just an empty screen that you join up to. So one of the things they do is they suggest a whole load of people for you, Lord Sugar, Time Out, London, based on whatever it is they can guess about you. And then you click that button which says follow 40 people and continue. So Alan Sugar is getting an awful lot of, in this particular instance, people who have just joined Twitter. But the one thing we know about people who just joined Twitter is they are very unlikely to come back tomorrow. So yes, these huge follow counts are huge, but an awful lot of them are either bots or, kind of people who are defunct, lapsed. So let's leave Twitter because they really haven't been much fucking use, frankly. It's true. So anyway, there are all kinds of things. Let's look at the YouTubers, because YouTubers are really nice for me because I like YouTubers. They make video. I work in advertising. Advertising people understand video. Clients understand video. We all understand what's going on there. It's great. I can sell video. And in fact, so we, you know, if you take a typical YouTuber, this is a fairly typical YouTuber, he charged about £15,000 to make a video for you. You've got 1.2 million subscribers. If you're working out as a cost per thousand, it's about £12.50, which is great. But this line here is his subscribers, and these little dots here are how many views his videos are getting. I like histograms, so I did this histogram, same graph, same data, different shape. What you see here is he's getting about 100,000, 110,000 views per video. That's great, still good. 100,000 views is nice. I mean, I'd be grateful. But it takes that from being £12.50 to being 135. That's 10 times. That's £135 cost per thousand is punchy for anybody, particularly as I don't get to choose who those. I don't get to choose who that audience is. The audience is the audience he can reach, and you know, if you are dealing with YouTubers, do ask them for their demographics. Sometimes they give them to you, and what you tend to find is if you want to reach young women, you're doing really well. If you're trying to reach anybody else, you might not be performing quite as well. So it's really, this has been a series of like quite unconnected thoughts, and I'm sorry for that, but the thoughts are about, I think, don't trust anybody else's data. And when you have your own data, you can begin to build your own insights. And the insight here is, if you're going to use influencers, use them as content, use them as access to decent PR, use them as anything. Do not use them as a substitute for channel. They're not going to get you that. They're nowhere, that's not the smart way of doing it. But as content, they're probably good news. So I'm kind of open for questions, but I suppose we both are open for questions. So can I get a drink?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry. Whatever's on the Should we sit down? Yeah.
I wondered if how you felt about when it's taken to the extreme. You see like Beats by Dre or these sort of headline, chief product officers, whatever they are.
Oh, well, let's say I sort of recruit, say for example, will.i.am as my chief creative officer. Very smart way, I think, of probably for both parties to negotiate an endorsement deal. I think you change the way it's taxed, and I think it's the sort of thing that I think if you've got your accountants involved, you're probably doing really, really well. I don't think it's particularly a brand thing, but I don't know. But Beats by Dre, I mean, he's actually fucking doing it. That's a big deal. I mean, I think that's a.
When Apple used Fry to announce the news of Johnny Ive's promotion,
wasn't that weird?
From Apple, on a bank holiday in the UK and the US. Is that a clever use of content?
I think it's clever if you see it as PR. Yes, they managed to get a story out with people who with a recognizable name who could then get carried elsewhere. Fry is recognizably an Apple fan. He had the first Mac in the UK. All of those things. There's kind of some history there, but they're not using him for his ability to reach an audience. They're using him for his ability to become a PR story. So he's a story. He's promotable, I think. I'm sorry? And credibility. Well, yeah, and credibility, or access to an audience, access to a normal audience. I mean, you could go Walt Mossberg, but they chose Stephen Fry. Sorry?
We tried to tell everyone. We gave it to Stephen Fry, and then went to Telegraph. So
yeah,
done that bit, and knowing that it wouldn't, which is the difference.
What about you too as well, though? Because you've got content there, and that really backfired.
I don't. That really did backfire. So that's I couldn't talk to that at all. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. Sorry.
Would it have worked with
Ed, what were they thinking?
But I think they've got an historical association with U2. So
yeah, they got the iPod thing, haven't
the
they?
iPod thing there. Maybe it was more of a let's just carry on this kind of going, and didn't really kind of. I think they probably misjudged how the sentiment towards U2 has changed over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, yeah, I think so.
I missed that. That particular bit I missed. But people, the world has changed, and people, you know, we have a large audience of people who pretend to care about things like privacy, it's harder, and it's a good story for journalists. So anything where it looks like you're riding roughshod over privacy. I mean, Facebook, for example, who are much better at privacy than kind of any other platform, continually get grief for it. I mean, I imagine they're getting grief for what you're doing.
Well, the Daily Mail loves an outrage.
Yeah,
so.
Well, journalists love stories about privacy because it features high in their lives. Sorry, are there any journalists here? Okay, fine. Good, we can talk about them. Yeah.
So are we at a point where we're getting more data, but we can trust less of it? You know,
so Andy led with the whole data is the new oil. Most data, the real story is that most data is shit. Most of it is shit, most of the time. Twitter is not really representative of your audience, and yet we have been using this to deliver all the insights about our audience. Much of Twitter is bots, or PR fluff, or SEOs trying to to game stuff. So the skill is not, what the data is. The skill is trying to identify signal. Yeah.
What to use.
Little things. I mean, it's really quite little things.
Who have a job to play, aren't they? In media agencies, in
oh man,
digital agencies.
It's we are as an industry, we are so still ignorant about. We're so excited by. I think the Holy Grail thing is quite an interesting thing, because I mean the Holy Grail, if we think about it, is something that unified an entire sort of culture across Europe, but it was unattainable, except by it was only visible by people who were virgins, and nobody's entirely sure what it was. I mean, some people think it's a cup, some people think it's a bowl, a plate. It's all. I mean, it's almost a perfect fucking metaphor.
And then when you find it melts your face.
That's right.
The ability to layer data over the top of existing customer data.
Data, information, knowledge, whatever. You have some kind of so the whole series of processes. The data itself is just available. It is absolutely what you do with it, and you're making it available. You're also, I think, doing something which is very smart, which is creating a platform which allows us to do stuff with it.
Yeah,
you never talk about.
We've never been into this thing. Everyone loves the appeal of raw data. Can I get the raw data? It feels like you get some extra unlock, an extra level. I've got the raw stuff, guys. Okay. Yeah. But the reality is that's the hardest, worst stuff to deal with. So you're right. You've got to. There's the.
Also, why would you want to store it, process it? I mean, this is what a data sieve does.
So there's still that pyramid. You get data at the bottom, and then you get insights and knowledge and nirvana at the top. So no doubt. But to go back to the question of have we got too much data? There is a great quote from Michael Dell that says you only need to get 70% in the exam to get an A. So you don't have to we don't need data perfection. We just need that trade-off of speed to make a decision and data quality. So otherwise we'll spend all our time arguing about how do we get 100% sentiment analysis.
But we need
all those kinds of
This is why sentiment analysis should never be a performance indicator. It's an input. I mean, at that point it becomes vaguely useful. But what you're saying, the 70% thing. If we need people to think statistically, and we have to learn, as an industry, again, to think. If you're right 60% of the time, you're winning. You know, I mean, if you're right 51% of the time, theoretically you're winning. You're just slowly, very, very slowly.
Well, I would say one bugbear I've had, which is still permeated across the entire industry, is data is never normalized, right? So whenever you see anything on social media about here's where all the activity about event X was in the US, you're looking at population distribution. Well, there's nothing where we go, oh, we've normalized it by population, and we can see that in Austin there is a huge spike of interest on this. So I think that there's still a lot left to do. I mean, if you think about it, this big data industry came about 3 or 4 years after the social media industry, and I think we're still trying to digest the two. Because initially, tools were out there to give you some board level content that you could shoot round to give you a bit of a hero report, or make a top level insight. I think now, with big data technology and the ability to integrate and cross correlate and predict across that seems to be where we'll actually get some more tangible value out of it.
I mean, the fintech side of things is just interesting to watch generally. I mean, they are already taking something which I thought was a joke. I mean, do you remember Derwent Capital a few years ago? There was a bunch who were trading on Twitter data. A hedge fund,
they shut the fund down.
Not existing anymore. No. But having said that, there are people who are definitely trading off news, and there are people who are beginning to use Twitter in certain ways as signals, but very carefully. Much less about total machine learning, we'll let the machine decide for us, and much more about here are a set of guesses that we're making, which we can identify, and there are signals that we can track here from these people. Frankly, if somebody's a financial journalist, they're probably interesting. If they're just, it's so you can build signal.
Yeah. Well, a good example is Bloomberg. They use our platform for the Bloomberg terminals, and the first part of that is to curate a population that you actually want to listen to.
Yeah.
Because if it's me talking about how I don't like the Apple Watch, it's probably not as influential as whoever.
Yeah.
So.
But there was a firm that actually traded on Twitter's own data, announced Twitter's results before Twitter actually announced it, and then the stock price of Twitter dropped, and it came out. There was a report that it was a hack, or actually wasn't. They actually
published it on the website by mistake earlier.
Yeah. So Twitter published their data early, thinking that nobody was looking.
Yes. That's like looking at a reflection of a mirror.
It's such a Twitter thing that. So again, nobody.
Interested in your observation of data shit. And
until you do something with it.
I just wonder whether we've all got this over-reliance on it. We used to have this phrase 15, 20 years ago before this big data come along. It's called lies, damn lies, and statistics. Well, now it's lies, damn lies, and big data to make the job. We need contrast in data so that actually humans can make real judgments about what's right and what's
They're going to split the industry. The industry is going to split very neatly, sort of like a cell dividing. Half of it's going to go towards automation and data and statistics and optimization, and we will more or less employ smart people to run the algos. And over here we will have the sort of big idea type stuff, big creative ideas, and clients will pay for both things, but they will not value them along the same spectrum. So the exciting and interesting and weird thing has been watching the media agencies try to take on, my old agency, to take on more and more of the available creative and production work because it's there and it's it's high for media agencies. It's high margin, but it's lower margins than the creative agency making. But that's a massive distraction for them. They need to just accept that they are competing with Capgemini now, and the creative agency needs to probably leave all the data shit behind because it's probably not relevant to them. They need to be selling like Wolf Olin, some kind of weird magic shit that smoke and mirrors. Sorry.
It's the same way that finance has gone, right? There's half the world which is quants, and the other one's doing the qualitative research, and you can imagine the same kind of model. But we probably all agree the world's going to get a bit boring if everything we ever see or ever read was built by an algorithm. Like, you can't be the left brain only; it has to be the right brain as part of it. So there's also the thing of, I think to your point, we don't want to oversteer too much. There has to be a creative process as part of this, and something that we still want to be inspired, as the Labour government realised we did, incorrectly.
I'm going to go more towards you and really agree with that, disagree with that. I was in a media agency as well, and buying media is a binary decision. Big data is binary decisions, and I agree it's more towards that side. But creative is not binary, and it doesn't fit with the.
Well, I mean,
what I think this has done though is show that because planning's never been paid for with media agencies.
Yeah.
There's a massive gap in planning, and I don't think this is solved. I think platforms like yours help that along. Yeah. But they're trying to take creative or production and say that's part of planning now, and it's not.
I started off talking about TOWIE. My job, I thought, was to find the best possible value for money, so we could find the best, but the person who would help us talk to the audience, help us reach a large audience, help us activate a large audience, but not cost us as much as Lauren Pope. We did it, and it's nice, easy sort of building, and you could do it. And you can say, well, look, everything says this person, we should go for her because it's actually going to cost us much, much less. But there's always Lauren Pope. Who's the client want? The client wants a famous one. So everything I'm doing is completely fucking pointless because I could just go with, let's.
So it's basically justify my decision.
On that note, any final questions? Is everyone fully satisfied? Good. Okay, round of applause for our speakers, please.